Hi guys, welcome back or welcome to Dreamworks Switch to Life. Today's video we're going to be talking about the DCM, aka the Dreamworks Cinematic Multiverse. I know, I tried to make it DCU, but it just doesn't work out. The main reason being there's a bunch of different Santa Clauses. Anyway, if you're not familiar with the cinematic universe, just know that it is a timeline which leads to a bunch of movies taking place in a single universe, thus leading to crossovers. Marvel actually started this trend, but it became really famous with the Pixar theory, basically stating that every single Pixar movie takes place in a single timeline. If you want more information, there's a video made by a different channel down below. I have my own version, which I will make a video about later. But for now, we're going to talk about the DreamWorks Cinematic Multiverse. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to DreamWorks, there are like a lot, and I mean a lot of properties in here. They've made over 45 movies, and they're making more on the way. And not to mention all of the TV shows that they made. Because of this, we're going to split this video into, well, I don't know how many parts, but you get what I mean. Today's video, we're going to be discussing Phase 1. Basically, this is the phase where DreamWorks Animation was still owned by DreamWorks Pictures, so from 1998 to 2003. Our first movie in this series is Ants. Now, Ants isn't that great of a movie, but let's be honest, it doesn't really do much to affect the timeline, especially because of its super tiny civilization. Now, Marvel Studios actually numbers their universes, designating them as Earth 1, or Earth 67, or Earth 746, or something else like that. I decided that for the DCM, we're going to name them after letters. So, Earth D is going to be our main universe. And for your information, Earth D stands for Earth Dreamworks. Earth Dreamworks is going to be the universe where a majority of our movies take place, including our first movie, Ants. Our second movie is going to be The Prince of Egypt. Now, I'm going to be honest here, I'm not going to put this movie on Earth D. I know that's going to disappoint some people, but in all honesty, personally, I don't mind it. But you gotta to acknowledge the fact that there is a God, and the problem is that while I do enjoy this version of God, there are some people who don't. Plus, there are some people who might find it insulting if this movie takes place in the same timeline as How to Train Your Dragon, or something else like that. So, I'm putting it in its own separate timeline known as Earth B, aka Earth Bible. Our next film is The Road to El Dorado. Once again, we find ourselves dealing with the concept of gods. Problem is, this time, we don't actually see any gods.
I know you are not gods. You're not a god?
There's not really anything to prevent this film from placing itself on Earth D, other than one key thing, the animation style that's used. DreamWorks doesn't really do 2D animation style, at least not since Sinbad Legend of the Seven Seas. Because of this, I decided that all 2D films are exempt from the rule of Earth D, which means I am placing The Road to El Dorado in its own separate universe called Earth. We'll come back to this later.
Stop that!
Anyway, moving on, we have Chicken Run. Chicken Run is our first movie that is made by Aardman Animations. Now, here's the thing. Even though DreamWorks helped to make this movie, DreamWorks doesn't actually own the rights to the movie.
We mustn't panic! We mustn't panic!
Well, they own the distribution rights, but they don't own the rights to the characters, which is why Aardman is able to make Chicken Run 2 on Netflix without the aid of DreamWorks Animation. Because of this, I'm going to place all Aardman films into a single universe called Earth A, which I'm sure you know stands for Earth Aardman. Our next film is Joseph, King of Dreams. This is a prequel to The Prince of Egypt, meaning that it's going to be placed on Earth B. Now, that means that the timeline of Earth B is as follows: Joseph, King of Dreams, and then a couple centuries later is The Prince of Egypt. Our next film is Shrek. And this is going to sadden me because Shrek is the film that made DreamWorks. Like, it's the film that got DreamWorks to become a staple name. It started the whole thing. And I'm sad to say that because of reasons, Shrek does not take place on Earth D. The issue is that there's too many inconsistencies if you try to place it into the timeline, especially this scene from Monsters vs. Aliens.
Oh my gosh, it's Shrek! Honey, bring the camera. Say cheese.
Because of this scene right here, we know for a fact that Shrek is seen as a movie on Earth D, not as an actual thing that happened on Earth D. However, I decided that's not going to do well with fans, so I'm placing Shrek on something called Earth F. It stands for Earth Fairy Tale, because this is where a lot of fairy tales take place.
Let's do that again.
No!
Okay, so our next film is Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron. Now, for a long time, I actually did place this movie on Earth D, but then we got this scene in The Boss Baby Family Business.
Everybody. Sorry.
Recalculating.
It's so real! It's so real! It's so real! Tim?
This means that Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron is in fact a movie on Earth D, and honestly, I'm gonna let this one slide. The way I see it, Spirit is actually an alternate timeline of Earth D. Okay, we're gonna get into this later, but stick with that for now. Our final film on Phase 1 is Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas. Okay, again, we're diving into the concept of gods, and that is a big no-no territory. With Eris, I really don't want her to be the person in charge of the fate of every single DreamWorks character who is important. So I'm placing Sinbad in its own separate little universe known as Earth S for Seven Seas. Okay?
It's the edge of the world!
Pay up, it's flat.
And just for fun, why don't we put El Dorado on Earth S as well? Even though we don't see any gods in El Dorado, we do know what they may act like. For one thing, they don't bleed, and Eris doesn't bleed. They also tend to be wrathful, and they love to get sacrifices, which is another thing that Eris has. And one final quality, apparently they are beautiful or handsome. And with that, we are done with DreamWorks Phase 1 movie listing. Now, here's the thing. I said that we were going to dive into the concept of the multiverse. There are two types of multiverse, and the DCM actually has both. We have alternate universes and alternate realities, aka alternate timelines, or whatever you want. Basically, an alternate reality or alternate timeline is just like our universe, except something happened that created a completely different outcome in the timeline. So we might start with the same thing, but maybe instead of going left, a person went right, and because of it, it changed the entire outcome. Now, that's not too big a deal. So basically, a lot of things that happen on Earth D can be translated over to alternate realities or alternate timelines, and that's the same thing with every single universe. Let's think about it this way. With Shrek, you have Earth F, and you have the main timeline. But when you get to Shrek Forever After, we find Shrek being transported to an alternate reality where he was never born. And because of it, the timeline has changed so drastically that it's a pretty much unrecognizable world. I mean, just look at those far, far away signs. But here comes the real clincher. Alternate universes. Now, here's the thing. In alternate realities, you can deal with alternate versions of yourself. But in alternate universes, you can't find an alternate version of yourself because that alternate version does not exist. The two universes don't share the same timeline and one just branched off from the other. That's not what happens. In an alternate universe, the laws of physics can change. Whenever I designate a universe with something like Earth letter, I'm talking about an alternate universe, not an alternate reality. I will say alternate reality of a certain universe, okay? So with that out of the way, that means that something like Sinbad can't belong on Earth D because it's in an alternate universe. But something like Spirit can belong on Earth D because it's in an alternate reality. Only it's not the main Earth D, it's a different timeline all on its own. And that is the DCM Phase 1 explained. Trust me, it'll get easier in Phase 2. Mostly because in Phase 2, lots of things can go to Earth D instead of just ants. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and please subscribe if you want to keep up to date on all the news related to the DCM. I don't know when Part 2 will be released, but I will let you know that I am working on it as you are watching this video. Until then, bye.